The Politics program brought to you as always by TakePoliticsSeriously.com. It is where you can support this show. It is where you can become part of the $3 club. $3 club. Means you get 3 podcasts a week. And I'll tell you what, in this day and age, you need those wingmen. Those politics podcasts on Monday, the politics podcast on Wednesday. A lot of shit going on. Be a part of it. Head on over to TakePoliticsSeriously.com. Be a part of the $3 club today. Also, live show in San Francisco on election night at 7 p.m. Piano Fight Theater. We are going over the story of the midterms with our own decision desk. You will be able to get all the news as it is happening, as well as a hilarious trip down memory lane through campaign ads and stories. Boy, yeah, it happens right there. Just go ahead and get your tickets. bit.ly/wavewatch. It's easy. And if you want to get the official t-shirt, then you can get it at bit.ly/wavewatchshirt. It's awesome. I love how it came out. And more variations on the shirt coming. That is for tickets, bit.ly/wavewatch. And for the shirt, shipping right now, bit.ly/wavewatchshirt. Never talking about how we support the show. Oh, what do you say we just do the damn thing?
Politics, 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 politics. Yes. Come on, come on, come on. Come on, come on, come on, baby, baby, baby.
Yeah. What? 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 Welcome, everybody. We're early. We are early this week. If you're taking a look at your calendar, you're like, wait a minute. I normally listen to politics on my Thursday morning commute or my Wednesday afternoon commute. Now all of a sudden it's available for my Wednesday morning commute or my Tuesday afternoon commute. What the F? Well, apologies for throwing off your schedule. I got a wedding, so I got to get out of here a little bit earlier, and I would rather do a regular show early than do a pre-recorded show. Too much stuff is happening for a pre-recorded show or a late show or an on-the-road show. They're just never as good, so we're doing it now. Deal with it. We got a lot on the docket today here, friends. We're going to talk about this Mitchell memo. We're going to talk about the line between having an opinion and doing your job. We're going to talk about how likely it is that by the time that I do this show next week on Wednesday, whether or not Kavanaugh will be confirmed. We're going to talk about referendum ads. We're going to talk about the new NAFTA. We're going to talk about the political ad of the week, the poll dance, your emails. But before, let's get into the real story. Yes. The inevitable. We all knew this was coming. Crashing into our political radar like the Kool-Aid Man, it is UB40. Red wine. We have a UB40 sighting, ladies and gentlemen, into the Kavanaugh confirmation crisis. A report that in New Haven, Connecticut, in 1985, there was indeed a police report issued because there was a scuffle at a late night popular watering hole with Yaleys. Breaks down like this. Everybody had just come back from a UB40 concert. And you know you've been listening to UB40. Oh, if you've ever listened to UB40, you know you're charged up. White knuckle. That's that kind of white knuckle excitement that UB40 can elicit in a young man's body. You're redlining, baby. Welcome back. I hope that the drive-by media understands the red-hot passion that courses through your veins after you have listened to UB40 live. Snurdly, I know, yeah, snurdly, of course. When you can really grab the dragon by the tail and hold on, every muscle in your body pumping with adrenaline, the kind of emotion that only UB40 British reggae artist UB40 can truly arouse in a young man. Will you know what Brett Kavanaugh was going through in 1985? Only then, snurdly, will you have a window into the soul of somebody so jacked up, so excited that they had just listened to the melodic tones of UB40. We'll be right back. Brett Kavanaugh and his buddy Chris Dudley, yes, that Chris Dudley, the big white guy from the NBA, went to a bar, and apparently there was a discussion about who somebody looked like the lead singer of UB40. And things escalated after Brett Kavanaugh threw either a cup of ice or his beer on somebody, and it ended when Chris Dudley glassed a dude in the head. Like he just smashed his glass on some dude's head. That's when the guy started bleeding, the cops get called, and the police report gets written up. Brett Kavanaugh did not glass a dude. Chris Dudley glassed a dude. I don't know where this fits in to the current confirmation crisis that we have for Brett Kavanaugh. Oh, by the way, this is we've come a long way since where we were last week. If you only listen to the regular version of the show, then when we last left, the hearings were about to happen. I guess you guys got the bonus episode on Thursday. But Jeff Flake, flaked and decided that he was going to blink at the 11th hour, which may or may not have been strategic, by the way. I don't want to pin this all on Flake. Flake might have known full well that vote would not have passed. The Kavanaugh vote would not have passed in the larger House. He was in communication with Joe Manchin, Susan Collins, and Lisa Murkowski. So he might have known that, hey, look, this is just going to be too hot for us right now. So let's go ahead and make a gentleman's agreement across the aisle to say, indeed, we should have an FBI investigation. Well, not an FBI investigation, a further extended FBI background check into Kavanaugh's sexual accusations. And so, indeed, that's what happened. And it moved pretty fast. Flake called for it on Friday. By Friday afternoon, the White House had agreed that there would indeed be an expanded background check. And by Saturday, everything had kind of fallen apart. For the most obvious reasons on the planet, by the way. Because you can't say in this politically charged atmosphere where literally no Democrats, except for a few, and we're going to get to them, would ever consider voting yes for Kavanaugh. Not the guy that would tilt the balance of the court. They're never going to vote yes. Ever, ever, ever. Never going to get it, never going to get it. Never going to get it, never going to get it. No, 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 no. Never going to vote. No, no, no. 9, like in 0 universes. Doctor Strange goes into his trance and like starts twitching back and forth, and Iron Man asks him, hey, in how many universes do any Democrats other than Joe Manchin and maybe Heitkamp vote for Brett Kavanaugh? And Doctor Strange looks back at Iron Man and just goes while making a thumbs down and maybe a 0. Like, that's just never going to happen. So maybe Flake understands that, hey, look, you need to do this. And then they all say in unison, yes, we agree on an expanded background check with a limited time and scope with no more than 1 week. Okay. Well, number one, the Democrats don't want limited time. They want infinite time. They want the Infinity War. They want it to last forever. Last forever. That's it. They don't want, they would prefer to run out not only the clock as in a shot clock, they would like to run out the clock until they have control of Congress. So, if that's the case, then what is the scope? Again, the Democratic position is all of it. Literally everything. And not even limited to Kavanaugh. We should also be directing the FBI to look into many other mysteries. How can we possibly confirm Brett Kavanaugh if we don't know exactly who shot Biggie and Tupac? How are we supposed to vote? How are we supposed to vote if every time I think about voting for Brett Kavanaugh, I'm like, but wait, was it mob-related violence? After all, I saw a very compelling miniseries on USA about who shot Biggie. Maybe it was a government conspiracy. How are we supposed to know? They want infinite scope. Republicans, microscopic scope. Microscopic scope. They want it all. They want the scope to be on whether or not Brett Kavanaugh prefers the brand scope. That's it. We should be able to knock this out in 5 minutes. Brett, when you use mouthwash, what kind of mouthwash do you use? Not scope? Check. Click, 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 click. Send PDF. So, if that's where we are, the Republicans want a like pinhole scope, and Democrats want the entire universe. Then when they all say in unison, yes, limited in time and scope, of course we know that this is going to fall apart immediately. And very predictably it does. Immediately we get the FBI, who, by the way, cannot be happy about this. FBI wants zero part of this shit. They don't. FBI lives and breathes on one thing. Identify a crime, find the people that did the crime, put the people that did the crime in jail. That's it. This is something for... Oh, yeah, and by the way, try to remain as not political as possible, which has been a real challenge lately. Now they have infinite political ramifications. They cannot come to a conclusion, and they cannot put anybody in jail. So they're just taking down notes from people, and that's it. So the FBI wants to get this done as fast as possible, I would assume. They don't want the heat on them any longer than it has to be. And by the way, they also know they're going to have to eat. Well, in fact, you want to know what? We might actually just do this as a little bit of a preemptive version. Folks, we're going to send the FBI out to lunch. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to send the FBI to the poop buffet because they might as well get used to it. They're going to have to go to the poop buffet, buy one ticket or the other by the end of this week. Because, spoiler alert, either the Republicans are going to be upset that things that shouldn't have been dragged into this were dragged into this, or the Democrats are going to be upset that the FBI didn't come back by saying Brett Kavanaugh is a rapist and should never be employed at a Wendy's, let alone the Supreme Court. This is going to happen. This is a mortal lock. This will happen before the end of this week. Like, that's it. You can't start from the position that we're at without somebody making the FBI the scapegoat. That's going to be the case. So, it is my opinion that this FBI investigation is going to pretty much give us the exact same fish in an FBI-approved kettle. If that is the case, then we're going to basically have everybody make the exact same decisions that they were going to make last Friday, this Friday. Which is why now I think that even the Democrats realize that, and now you're starting to see more of a push in different areas. And part of it is the reason why we now know that UB40 is playing a role in our modern political system. Because now the issue is less whether or not Brett Kavanaugh is, sexually assaulted Dr. Ford, and now it is whether or not Brett Kavanaugh lied under oath. So, if you are going to attack Brett Kavanaugh's, performance under oath, which, by the way, let's start this understanding that a lot of the Red Team listeners are going to already check out. Because a lot of the Red Team listeners are like, hey, you want to know what? Even if he did lie under oath, this is all fruit of the poison tree. There should not have been a hearing. There should not have been a second hearing. If the FBI investigation came in and found nothing about the Dr. Ford allegations, then why was he up there getting grilled like this again for another thing that now the FBI says that they can't prove, or that it passes yet another FBI investigation. So that's the red team argument. I understand that y'all are going to check out, but let's go ahead and follow this thread. There are two elements that seem most likely to be there for Brett Kavanaugh lied under oath. Number one is that he was misleading or outright lying about his drinking habits, that he drank more than he was leading on, that he indeed drank to excess, that he indeed got aggressive when he drank, and that he indeed may or may not have blacked out, for which he was very blacked out or passed out, for which he was very insistent that he did not, right? So that's where we get UB40. That's where we get bar fights. That's where we get Chris Dudley Glass the dude. We also get other stories of other Yale classmates saying he was very aggressive and he was not entirely truthful about how he described his drinking. Now, I watched every stitch of that. What I would, as not a lawyer, I am not a lawyer. However, he said he drank to excess. He was not questioned specifically on whether or not he ever threw ice on people. He was not questioned specifically on what on if he ever yelled at somebody when he was drunk. So, if that's the case, then I don't know if legally you can prove perjury on the fact that he downplayed how drunk he got. Nor do I necessarily think that if we're being honest and we're getting outside the bubble a little bit, that people who have not made their mind up about this kind of issue really give a fuck whether or not he said he drank to excess, but really he excessively drank. So there's that. The other thing that is more provable, IMO, is an NBC report that came out yesterday. That he was texting, all right, I'm going to try and get this right. There are text messages as obtained by NBC News between two people who also went to Yale discussing the fact that Kavanaugh has been calling around to other Yale people seemingly knowing about the Deborah Ramirez allegations, trying to get support. Now, because we don't see the text messages and because we have no other information beyond that, it's hard to say it is a step forward on what would be out and out perjury. Specifically, that Kavanaugh, who said under oath that the first time he heard of the allegations against it by Deborah Ramirez was in the New Yorker. But then again, if we don't know what the text messages said, and we don't know we do know that Kavanaugh was going around to literally everybody he ever knew after the Dr. Ford allegations to get a gigantic group of people to sign a Kavanaugh's a great dude piece of paper. So, I mean, again, it's like if we're talking about perjury of somebody under oath in a confirmation hearing for the Supreme Court, it can't just be he said, she said. It's got to be it's got to be something. There's got to be a smoking gun. or else we're just back to zero. You know, I joked after on the Friday $3 Club podcast that the Democratic playbook on this was going to be demand an FBI hearing, and then if you didn't get one, say, oh my God, I can't believe it. This guy, they didn't even give us an FBI hearing. So Flake flakes and he gives an FBI hearing. But now the strategy is going to be, well, we can't confirm this guy, or an FBI background check. Now the Democratic playbook is going to be, well, we can't confirm this guy. He was just being looked into by the FBI yesterday. So I just think we are at such a far points that are so far away from each other that my opinion on this is that we're going to see him confirmed because the Republicans do have the seats, and I believe they will eventually shake loose the votes. That the Republican, if we indeed get what I suspect, which is the same fish in an FBI-approved kettle, then the undecided votes, specifically Collins and Murkowski, we'll get to Manchin in a second, will say, hey, look, we did the due diligence. We gave you what you wanted. Now we vote. You asked, you got it. You write it, you watch it. We're done. We vote now. You can vote no. I will vote yes. And that'll be that. I think that's going to be how it happens. I want to discuss now something that is a little bit more esoteric. So let's put the Kavanaugh thing on hold. We will get back to Joe Manchin. I want to ask you guys something. Where is the line between doing your job and having an opinion? Because I saw two examples over the last 2 days that I want to bring to your attention. The first is the case of Rachel Mitchell. You might know Rachel Mitchell because she was the prosecutor that was asking Dr. Christine Blasey Ford questions and began to ask Brett Kavanaugh questions until Kavanaugh started yelling, and then all the Republicans were like, ooh, I can yell too. So here's the headline. Mitchell says she would not bring criminal charges against Kavanaugh in memo. We read now from a Fox News article. Rachel Mitchell, the sex crimes prosecutor who questioned Dr. Christine Blasey Ford last week, wrote in a memo released last Sunday that there were inconsistencies in Ford's testimony, and given the information at hand, she would have not brought criminal charges against Judge Brett Kavanaugh. Mitchell, who was hired by the Senate Judiciary Committee to assist Republicans, addressed her letter to all Republican senators and said no senator approved the memo. She noted in the assessment that she is a Republican, but said she is not a political person. She identified Ford's case as an example of he said, she said, and said her case is even weaker than that. Ford, a California psychology professor, claims Kavanaugh assaulted her while at a house party in the 1980s when they were teenagers. She says he pinned her to a bed, attempted to forcibly remove her clothes, and prevented her from screaming. Ford said she was 100% certain that Kavanaugh was her attacker. Kavanaugh vehemently denied the accusations. So here is what Mitchell said. Mitchell, who worked as a sex crime prosecutor for nearly 25 years in Arizona, pointed out what she identified as timing inconsistencies. She wrote that Ford appeared to jump around in her timing on the alleged sexual assault, ranging from the mid-1980s to early 1980s to the summer of 1982. While it is common for victims to be uncertain about dates, Dr. Ford failed to explain how she was suddenly able to narrow the time frame to a particular season of a particular year. She also pointed out that Ford has a history of struggling to name Kavanaugh as her attacker. Mitchell noted that her name was not in her notes from her 2012 marriage therapy or her individual therapy in 2013. Now, let's go ahead and say that Rachel Mitchell is indeed a partisan. And that Rachel Mitchell is here as a naked political actor to get Brett Kavanaugh confirmed. And that this memo is doing that 150%. Does anybody really have a problem with what she did during the questioning? Because to me, she was the key reason why Dr. Christine Blasey Ford came off as credible. She asked fairly straightforward questions. Dr. Christine Blasey Ford, I don't know why I keep saying her full name, Dr. Ford continued to answer them in a way that was confident and concise, if not accommodating. And Rachel Mitchell prevented the Republicans from being, tough on her or trying to trap her. There was only one moment wherein I felt like Rachel Mitchell was trying to ask tough questions of Dr. Ford. Otherwise, it was fairly routine. It was her just kind of setting up the facts of the story. And I think that everybody else kind of read it like that. Unless you were just upset that a prosecutor was asking her questions because Dr. Ford was not on trial for anything, then I think Rachel Mitchell would have gotten destroyed if she were the hatchet woman. I don't think she was. So in my perspective, I think she did about as good of a job as anybody could do being put in her situation. I thought she was very fair to Dr. Ford. And then you have this email. To me, I think you can do both. I don't think it benefits us to believe that people are faceless automatons. And even if we were to say, okay, but not now, okay, then when? Is it going to be better a year from now? 5 years from now? I don't necessarily think so. If anything, it would just cast light or cast a pall on a thing that happened a while ago that was now settled. I'd rather her get out and say, hey, look, this is my opinion. Now, nobody can assume that my opinion was something else. Let's look at it from the other side, though. This UB40 story that I love so much. It was written by Emily Bazelon. This is a tweet by Yashar Ali. It says, I understand why the New York Times would publish this story, given some of Kavanaugh's statements, but Emily should have never been assigned to it or had her byline on it. Not a good look. So this is a tweet by Emily Bazelon. As a Yale Law School grad lecturer, I strongly disassociate myself from tonight's praise of Brett Kavanaugh. I guess this is when he was named. With respect, he's a fifth vote for a hard right turn on voting rights and so much more that will harm the democratic process and prevent a more equal society. Emily Bazelon is the first byline on the story that we were quoting from earlier. Kavanaugh was questioned by police after bar fight in 1985. That is an article that relies very specifically, except for a few little contextual details, on a police report. As long as you can verify the police report, then that's pretty much all she did as a reporter. She found the police report. She wrote up the police report. Now, I don't think that anybody would make an argument that this is not newsworthy. I think that was a good article. I think she also has a political opinion. I think that she should be allowed to do both. We should not be looking at people's purity. We should not have a purity test. We should have a fact-based test. In journalism specifically, I'm going to get a little J-School nerd up in here. What we should be attacking is not whether or not a naked partisan wrote something. We should be attacking the facts of what they wrote. And in my opinion, that Kavanaugh story is fairly unassailable, unless you're going to say that the police report was fudged. So I don't have a problem with her having a byline on that. Now, the New York Times might have a question about their own reputation. That could be a question as to why she should not have a byline on there. But for me, for my money, and what I'm curious for you guys, do you have a problem with it? Because to me, I always thought it was a fallacy that we were going to pretend that journalists are news robots that descend from heaven and then, like, information into my journalist mouth. I have spit out the truth. Newsbot ascends back to Valhalla. That's not reality. In my opinion, most journalists that I know do certainly lean more liberal. It's just my personal opinion, my personal anecdotal experience. That doesn't mean they don't do good work. And if they do bad work, we should be able to attack the work. Besides, the real problem is more in terms of the political leanings of editors, not reporters. But that's a different story. So I'm curious. Email me, theyoungamerican@gmail.com. When does this bother you? Or does it? Is there something I'm missing? Because for both of those cases, and I'm even taking it a step further with Mitchell, I am totally fine with them being partisan as long as the job gets done correctly. And personally, with those two, I thought the job got done fine when the chips were down. Here's something else about chips being down, considering one of these recently in my locality in Oakland, California, was about junk food. I want to talk real quick about referendum ads, because I want you guys to send me some of the ones that you see. But did you ever notice that referendum ads, and by that I'm talking about the vote yes on number or vote no on number ads. Y'all know them. You're seeing a lot of them right now. You're going to see a lot more up through election night. That you can see the yes and the no and still have no idea that they're talking about the exact same referendum. That, you know, the yes on 4 is like, seniors are the pillar of our society. If seniors don't eat food, seniors will die. Grandfathers, all will die. Vote yes on 4. And you're like, shit, I don't want grandma to die. I'm voting yes on 4. Next ad. Electricity powers everything we do. Your lights, your car, the light that you teach your child to read with. Electricity is the cornerstone of all society. Vote no on 4. And you're like, what the fuck is even happening? Like, what is the line between these two things? There's no consistency. There was one here in 2016 that was about sodas. It was a soda tax. And the no soda tax thing portrayed itself as an attack on local businesses. So it was like, local businesses will die if you don't vote no on 4. And I'm like, well, I love local businesses. I like to support local businesses. I got to vote no on 4. And then yes on 4 was greedy corporations are killing your kids with their sugar water. It's like, oh my God, I don't want our kids to be killed by sugar water. It's so ridiculous. And then you read the referendum and you can't figure out what the hell they're doing even in it, because it's like this unreadable block of lawyer text that is totally out of pocket. So I want to see whether or not you guys have good examples of ads that you've seen for which you are in no way educated on exactly what you're voting yes or no for. That's what I want to know. I want to know whether or not you guys have good referendum ads, because I have a sneaking suspicion that we're going to be getting a lot of them over the next few weeks. So Trump rewrote NAFTA. I mean, what else are you going to say? This is going to be a good thing for him. It's a campaign promise. He backed down Justin Trudeau. Cool. Nobody gave a shit about NAFTA except as a talking point on the right. It is, again, a campaign promise. It'll get the right excited. It'll be something that'll get a big cheer when he is back on the campaign trail, which should be due to happen 7 months ago. So there we go. I don't really have a lot more to say about it. I don't know how different it is from NAFTA. It could be literally just changing colons to semicolons, and he's still going to get credit for it because he said he was going to do it. Nobody else has ever done it. He did it. And we know he did it because people were really angry about it for a little bit, and now they came to a deal. Art of the deal. He's a deal maker. Winning. This is a win. We used to win. Then we didn't win. Now we're winning again. Donald Trump 2020. Keep America great again? Kappa? Is it going to be Kappa? I don't know. Let's get into our political ad of the week. This one was sent in by Trench Reynolds. Here we go. This is Kansas 2. The Kansas District 2, KA2. This is an ad against Paul Davis. Here we go.
Shady lawyer Paul Davis had a lot of sleazy clients. Davis represented a man accused of physically mistreating a mentally disabled patient. Another client was accused of battery against a uniformed police officer. What's worse, sleazy Paul Davis acts like his clients. Davis was caught with a stripper during a drug bust at his client's strip club. Shady Paul Davis. He can't be trusted. Congressional Leadership Fund is responsible for the content of this advertising.
I want to get into these voiceovers. I feel like I could do a really good voiceover. You have to have like the like Shady Paul Davis. In fact, all the ads need to be read while you're kind of like shaking your head. Shady Paul Davis. Breathless voiceover for the political ad. You're kind of always out of breath. All right. Let's talk a little bit about Joe Manchin. I don't know whether or not Joe Manchin is going to vote for Brett Kavanaugh. I do know that he's in a sticky situation. This is a midterm issue for him. He is going to go before the voters of West Virginia, a state that Donald Trump won solidly. He did vote for Neil Gorsuch. So he is going to be under a lot of pressure. And now it has become an election night issue. But how much does he have to play with? How much room does he have to play with? But what do you say we find that out? Because, folks, we got data to back this up. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is a West Virginia Senate
Get on the floor if you got that booty.
Dance, 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 dance.
That booty.
This is a WSAZ TV poll taken from September 17th to September 26th. A likely voter sample of 650 and a 3.8 point margin of error. Coming up first to the stage, the Republican with 38% of the vote. Let's get a big round of applause for the man who is riding Cav as long as he can. He's a Cav-do man. Patrick Morrissey. But your headliner,
Get on the floor if you got that booty.
with 46% of the vote, he is a red state Dem. The incumbent, Joe Manchin. That is Joe Manchin +8 over his Republican challenger, Patrick Morrissey. That's going to be a challenge because he doesn't have a ton. I mean, he is not out of the woods when it comes to surviving this reelection bid. And if what we saw at the Kavanaugh hearing is a very rigid split and Manchin's on the wrong side with those voters, he is going a no vote on Kavanaugh might be a problem for him. And of course, there is the fact that West Virginia people want Blankenship, which we have not heard from Don Blankenship since he's been kept off the ballot. Let's go ahead and get your emails. Yep. Your emails always come on into us at theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Cameron writes, I finally listened to the last episode, and I'm glad you read my email. When I said things were heating up in Orlando, I didn't realize how fast it would happen. This was about Anna Eskamani, who is being campaigned against for being a liberal protester. She said there are pro-Anna Eskamani signs in every other yard around my part of Orlando, and the flyers keep coming in the mail. It's an actual topic of conversation at the bar. They are digging into this cool people are bad thing and hoping all the old people are offended. The problem is that most of my neighborhood are hipsters between the age of 35, or about the age with 35 with young kids. This flyer is talking about a protest in Publix, and I can get that to you into the future if you want. And so Anna Eskamani, I saw this because I'm interested in Florida politics, but there was a like die-in at a Publix, and I guess she ran it. So, I mean, look, I think that she is being run against by the civility argument. We'll see what plays in November. I think whatever plays in November will very much shape 2020. Jeff writes, did anyone ask for the FBI's consent if they wanted to open an investigation into Kavanaugh? Isn't this kind of how this all started? Makes you think, IMO Jeff. And Ty on YouTube says, if you make a Red Wave t-shirt, I will buy it. Hold on to your butts, Ty. We will probably have a Red Wave t-shirt this week. Please pay attention to my Twitter.
Politics.
That about wraps it up for us today. Email me, theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Music has been provided by Valesco and Trop Killers. Follow me at Justin R. Young everywhere and download archived episodes of this show at bonerwars.com. Folks, a reminder to sign up for my free political newsletter at freepoliticalnewsletter.com. Until next time, a reminder, some shows talk about politics. Others talk about politics. I saw one the other day that talks about politics, but this is the only show that talks about all three. I will see you guys later.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.